Yes, ma'am.
I had.
Yes.
Were you not present? Yeah, yeah. I think I did it with the NCRT PDF only, Mariam, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Before biotechnology, we did it.
Okay, before biotechnology. Okay. Did I give you the notes for that chapter?
No.
No. Okay. Maybe you were absent. Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why. Okay, we'll do it again. Like, no problem. All right, everyone, switch on your videos quickly. Now, see, we're going to tackle this particular chapter today, basically EVS. And the notes for it, I'll provide you tomorrow. First, we'll do this chapter because, this chapter does not require like a major understanding as such. It is basically environmental studies, and we're going to see how that happens. Now, biodiversity and conservation. Now we're going to see how we can conserve our biodiversity, which is actually, you can say, a very diverse situation on the earth. Like there are variety, or you can say the major variety of plants and animals, like flora and fauna both. So we're going to see how to conserve it, how to protect it, and all of that thing. Now let us read something from what NCRT says. If an alien from a distant galaxy were to visit our planet Earth, the first thing that would amaze and baffle him would most probably be the enormous diversity of life that he would encounter. Right? There are so many, you can say, varieties of one particular organism that it is very, you can say, unique also, and it is very fascinating as well. Like, for example, there are 20,000 species of just ants, 3 lakh species of just beetles, 28,000 species of just fishes, and nearly 20,000 species of only orchids. So, all in all, we can say that, like, for one particular type of organism, there are so many different kind of species that are present on the earth, which makes it a very diverse population of organisms. So this has been studied. Okay, the estimation has been made as to how many number of plants or how many number of different kinds of insects and mammals and beetles and whatnot, all of that are there on the earth. And that estimation has been done. Apart from that, people have also, like, apart from discovering these organisms, people have also tried to find out that how many of them, even though like lakhs and lakhs of them are present, but still a lot of them are being extinct, and that too daily. Right? So how to, like, what is the reason for their extinction and how can we save them? All of that we're going to see in this particular chapter. Now, biodiversity. In our biosphere, immense diversity or heterogeneity exists not only at the species level, but at all levels of biological organization. Meaning, even if you start with a single cell, up until to the organ system and all of those levels, you will find a lot of diversity. And this is what we mean by biodiversity. It's not just, you can say, one particular kind of organism. It's not just plants, it's not just animals, it's everything combined. But one thing that is not combined in this is micro organisms. If we add that also to this slot, then imagine how great of a number we can get. So, biodiversity is the term popularized by the sociobiologist Edward Wilson. So, this term biodiversity, it was given by Edward Wilson. Now, he used this term to describe combined diversity at all the levels of biological classification. He said that whether we are talking about the genetic level, whether we are talking about the species level, or even the population level, at every level you would find a lot of organisms present. Now, out of all the different levels of biological classification, genetic, species, and ecological diversity are very important. Genetic diversity. Now, you people remember the hierarchy: kingdom, phylum, class, order, genus, species, right? So, imagine the genus level. What is our genus, students?
Homo.
Homo, right? Our genus is Homo. And what is our species name?
Sapiens.
Sapiens. Same way, if we, do you people remember the scientific name of potato? Anyone remembers? No one? Solanum tuberosum. Remember? Do you remember the scientific name of brinjal? That also belongs to potato family only. That is Solanum melongena, right? So same way, like you can see how potato and brinjal, they both belong to one particular family. That is, which family do they belong to?
Solanaceae.
Yeah, Solanaceae. They belong to Solanaceae, right? But even after belonging there, there are so many varieties of potatoes only, right? There are small potatoes, there are red ones, then there are like white ones, and then there are those that are very dusky kind. So there are so many different varieties of potatoes and also brinjal, right? The longer ones, the big, heavier ones, the circular ones. There are so many different types. So that is what I mean to say, that at every level of the biological classification, whether we talk about the kingdom level or the lowest, that is the species level, you'd have a lot of range, right? A wide variety. Now, the first kind is genetic diversity. A single species might show high diversity at the genetic level over its distributional range. The genetic variation shown by the medicinal plant Raw Wolfia vomitoria growing in different Himalayan ranges might be in terms of potency and concentration of the active chemical called as reserpine that plant produces. Right. So now at the genetic diversity level, raw Wolfia vomitoria, which is a plant which is usually found in the Himalayan regions, it is very, you can say, diverse, right? It is like a lot of these Rauwolfia plants are found there. And why are they so important? Because of the particular chemical that they produce, that is reserpine. Okay, this reserpine is used mostly in treating certain diseases, right? So that is like the one case. Like they ask you usually in the examples, like what comes, like which organism is diverse in terms of genetic diversity. So raw wolfia is one of the example that you can write over there. India has more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mangoes, right? So this is at the genetic level. At the genetic level or the genus level, we find this. Coming on to the species level, the diversity at the species level, for example, the Western Ghats have a greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. Now, see, the number of organisms and the type of organisms, they also vary according to the geographical position that they are found in. If you talk about the Antarctica or the North Pole, do you think a lot of variety of animals will be there? What are some of the major kinds? You see polar bear, right? You see those white Asian fox, right? Then what else do you see?
Seal.
Seal. Then,
Walrus.
yeah,
Penguins.
seal, walrus, all those kinds, like there are very few, right? If you compare the Antarctic area diversity to the Amazonian rainforest, which one would have more? The rainforest, isn't it? It will have
Rainforest.
so many more varieties in terms of flora and fauna both. So that is what I mean to say, that according to the geographical level also, these species vary. Same way, if you go to the Western Ghats, you'll find more amphibian species as compared to the Eastern Ghats. Then comes the ecological diversity. At the ecosystem level, India, for instance, with its deserts, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, wetlands, estuaries, and alpine meadows, has a greater ecosystem diversity than a Scandinavian country like Norway. Now, India is a very diverse country, right? It has a lot of places, like you can find desert also in India, you can find rainforest also, you can find those cold areas also. So depending upon that, the ecological diversity in India, depending upon the geography that it is at, is greater as if you compare it with Norway. Now it has taken millions of years of evolution to accumulate this rich diversity in nature, but we could lose all that wealth in less than 2 centuries if the present rate of species losses continue. Imagine, it took millions of years, but we can lose it in how many years? We can lose it in 2 centuries. 1 century is of how many years? 1 century means 100 years, right?
100 years.
So in 200 years, we can lose all of it if the way the species are being lost currently, if it continues for a long period of time. Now, biodiversity and its conservation are now vital environmental issues of international concern as more and more people around the world begin to realize the critical importance of biodiversity for our survival and well-being on this planet. Now, you do know that every organism in the world are some way or the other dependent upon each other, right? If you, and there is one fact that you should all know, that if we make one particular population or one particular kind of organism extinct, all those organisms that were either connected to it or you can say had some sort of interaction with that particular species, they will also go extinct. So that is why keeping all the species at a safe level is important. Now, how many species are there on Earth and how many in India? Since there are published records of all species discovered and named, we know how many species in all have been recorded so far, but it is not easy to answer the question as of how many species there are there on Earth. According to the International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. See, this can be as in like expand or give the full form of IUCN. So International Code, or sorry, International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, this particular organization in the year 2004, they said that the total number of plant and animal species described so far is slightly more than 1.5 million, but we have no clear idea as how many species are yet to be discovered and described. There are many species of plants and animals that have not yet been discovered and they haven't been classified and described. Estimates vary widely and many of them are only educated guesses. For many taxonomic groups, species inventories are more complete in temperate than in tropical countries, right? In temperate area, maybe we can believe that, okay, there is not like a lot of seasonal diversity over there. So the organisms found over there can be a limited number. But in tropical countries, you can't do that. Considering that an overwhelmingly large population of the species waiting to be discovered are in the tropics, biologists make a statistical comparison of the temperate tropical species richness of an exhaustively studied group of insects and extrapolate this ratio to the other groups of animals and plants to come up with a gross uh, estimate of the total number of species on Earth. So according to this, when we compare the total, like it's just a wild guess. So approximately it ranges from 20 to 50 million. But a more conservative and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. So this is like a more estimated or more closely estimate as to how many species are present globally. Globally meaning on the earth. Doesn't matter which country. And who gave this estimation? So Robert May. Again, now we have two names that are important. Edward Wilson that gave the term biodiversity, and then Robert May that gave the estimation as to how many global species are there. Now let us look at some interesting aspects about Earth's biodiversity based on the currently available species inventories. More than 70% of all the species recorded are animals, while plants such as algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms comprise no more than 22% of the total. Imagine, out of 7 million, 22% only is for these groups of plants, but 70% is for the animals. So obviously animals are more than the plants. Now, among animals, insects are the most abundant on the planet. Insect. Now, can someone tell me why and how? More important.
Because they can survive harsher climate.
That's true. But why? Why can they
Because
survive?
because of their shell.
Shell.
No, this. What do you call that? Their body.
Hmm. So, like, what is it made up of because of which they can survive those harsh conditions?
I think a nail. Nails. I think.
Nails.
I no.
No, our nails are not made up of
Then I don't know.
that. You would
I
think
saw it.
keratin.
Yeah.
No, no keratin.
I heard it. I
Students,
saw it in a
this
video
question is to
once.
everyone. Why can insects survive better than any other organism? Like they are the most abundant. Like every, what do you say? Like out of every 10 animals, there are 7 insects present on the earth. So you count 10, you'll have 7 insects. Then you count 10, and then you'll have 7 more insects. So per individual, you will have so many insects. So why only insects are so diverse? Why not any other groups? Yaya told us that it's because they can survive harsher calamities, all the sorts of, right? Now my question is why? He's right. Now the rest of you tell me why. It's very simple. Just say that one word and I'll be satisfied. Okay, I'll tell you one thing that the insects, doesn't matter which insect, their exoskeleton is made up of a very, very, very hard substance.
Chitin.
Yep, chitin. Chitin is that substance. Okay, CHITIN. Have you ever killed any bug? Or any cockroach, anything, any insect? Have you ever killed it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to ask is going to sound very cruel, but this is how it's going to be justified. When you killed that particular insect, with whatever means that you did you hear a clicking sound or a crunchy sound?
Crunch or something.
Yeah, that was chitin that you were crunching or crushing or whatever you do. So chitin is that particular thing. It is very hard, very resistant. There are very few chemicals that can act on it and degrade. So like because of the presence of chitin, the insects can go into the crevices of the walls and stuff and still survive. So because of this very reason, the insects are so much in the world. Now, among animals, insects are the most species-rich taxonomic group, making up more than 70% of the total. Imagine, out of the 70%, again, this thing number is so much more. That means out of every 10 animals on this planet, 7 of them are insects. So out of 10, 7 are insects. So the rest 3 are the animals. Okay, so this is the math. All right, now moving forward again. How do we explain the enormous diversification of insects? The number of fungi species in the world is more than the combined total species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. Again, there are so many different fungi species, but fungus doesn't come under animals, right? It mostly comes under, it has its own kingdom fungi. So this particular pie chart, students, it's very important, very, very, very important. They can give you the pie chart and ask you to say that which group is what. Okay. So that is why it is very important. Now let us talk about the invertebrates first. Invertebrates are those that do not have a vertebral column, right? They do not have it. So we have the largest, see, the whole major group or major portion of the pie chart is like taken up by the insects, right? More than half. Then after that, there comes the other animal groups that are invertebrates that come under this. Then there are the mollusks. Remember that. Can you name one organism that comes under mollusk? Anyone?
Snail.
Hmm?
Snails.
Yeah, snails. Snails would come under this, then this thing. Octopus would come under this, right? So we have mollusks, the soft-bodied organisms, right? Remember that the largest phylum is the phylum Arthropoda, right, which belongs to the insects. And the second largest phylum is phylum Mollusca. Okay, so this is the division. And then there are crustaceans. Crustaceans are, you can say, they come under the Arthropoda phylum only, and they are a different group. So this is the division of the invertebrates. Then talking about the vertebrates, so amongst the vertebrates, the majority is taken up by the fishes. The fishes are the major groups that are found in the vertebrates, followed by the birds. After fishes, the birds are more in number. Then the reptiles are more in number, and sort of amphibians and mammals sort of borderline each other. They are almost the same, or slightly amphibians are more. Okay, so you people see here which part is taken up by which group of organism is important to remember, because you can, like maybe they'll give you this chart as it is, remove all the labelings and ask you to label it. Okay, so this is important, very important. Then comes the plants. Now, amongst the plants, the fungi is the most abundant. Then the angiosperms, all the flowering plants, they are the most abundant after that, right? After the flowering plants, we have the algae, abundant. And then we have mosses, which comes under the bryophytes. We have the lichens and ferns, like the lichens, pteridophytes, all of them are very less in number, but the majority is fungi. Second majority is angiosperms. Clear? So this is basically sort of like a rough description as to how many, which group of organisms is more in number and what is like comparative analysis. Now, it should be noted that these estimates do not give any figures of for the prokaryotes. We are not yet considering the prokaryotes at all, right? Because biologists, they are not sure about how many prokaryotic species there might be. No one is sure about that, right? There are so many different kinds of bacteria, then so many different kinds of these things, viruses, right? But viruses are not truly living, so we don't have estimate for that also. So we are not considering the prokaryotes at all. Now, the problem is that conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable for identifying microbial species, and many species are simply not culturable under laboratory conditions. Like, for example, if you are to study the bacteria, right, then you have to use a microscope first of all. Then you have to make cultures of it. To make culture of it means to make many colonies of it to study it. And at like every division, bacteria divides a lot, and it divides after every 20 minutes. So imagine, like you kept it for one observation, and you took one observation, and then you came back again after 20 minutes and you find double the population. Then again you find triple the population. So that increases. So it's very tough. Apart from that, we do not do it conventional taxonomic methods to find out the number means to look at the genus, to look at the species and everything. But that is very difficult in the case of prokaryotes. That is why biologists have not yet given even an estimation also. Now, if we accept biochemical or molecular criteria for delineating species for this group, then their diversity alone might run into millions. Imagine one bacterial species, let's just say E. coli. E. coli itself can have so many thousands and thousands of species, let alone all the bacteria that are there, right? Can you name 2 to 3 bacteria?
E. coli.
I did that.
Salmonella typhi,
Then?
Yersinia pestis,
Hmm.
Mycobacterium diphtheria,
Mycobacterium tuberculosis. There are so many. Name
yeah,
more. Pneumococcus. Then this is not a question from class 11th, right? See, students, I'm telling you one thing, and this one thing is for everyone. Once the syllabus is completed, I know I have to give revision classes to all of you. I know that. Basically, that will be reading the chapters once again. But I am going to ask you questions and then you won't have any excuse. Once the syllabus gets completed, we'll start from the beginning, right? So no excuse then. So right now I'm letting it go, but then I won't. Anyway, although India has only 2.4% of the world's land area, its share of the global species diversity is an impressive 8.1%. Imagine 2.4% is the land, 8.1% is the species in that land. So a lot. This is what makes our country one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. Out of those 12 mega diversity, we are one of them. Now, nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many of the animals have been recorded of from the country India. How many living species are actually there waiting to be discovered? Not yet known. If we accept Robert May's global estimates, only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far. Applying this proportion to India's diversity figures, we estimate that there are probably more than 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species yet to be discovered and described. We would ever, no, sorry, what would we ever be able to compete with the inventory of the biological wealth of our country? No. Consider the immense trained manpower, that is the all the taxonomists, whether it is the case of plants and animals, all the taxonomists, and it will take a lot of time. The situation appears more hopeless when we realize that a large fraction of these species faces the threat of becoming extinct. Imagine you go to find out that they do not even exist anymore, the reason why they have got extinct. So that is how that happens. Any doubts up until now? This is basically the figurative, like how many numbers and what all things are there. Coming on to the patterns of biodiversity, the latitudinal gradients. You people understand latitude, longitude, all of those things? The geographical measures, or forgotten? The highs, lows, the plateau, the plains, all of these things, you remember? Okay. Now imagine a globe while we are studying this. Okay. Don't ask me questions because my geography is just as good as yours. So don't ask me anything related to that. Latitudinal gradients. The diversity of plants and animals is not uniform throughout the world, but shows a rather uneven distribution. For many groups of animals or plants, there are interesting patterns in diversity. The most well-known being the latitudinal gradient in diversity. Gradient, so you people understand, right? High to low, the gradient, normal gradient. In general, species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator. Where is the equator, students? It is at the center, right? Here. This is the equator. Now, if this is the equator, now if we move here, or if we move towards, like if either you move towards the north pole or you move towards the south pole, the species diversity would decrease. It will be maximum at the equator and it will start decreasing towards either of the poles. With very few exception, tropics, that is yeah, this is important. What is the range, like in which range of the latitude the tropics area comes? So the latitudinal range is 23.5 degree north to 23.5 degree south. Harbors more species than temperate or polar areas. So the tropical area, like we discussed earlier, can you tell me why? Do you know anything about tropics, the tropical area? See, the tropics are those areas wherein there is a lot of annual rainfall, meaning precipitation is a lot and sunlight is a lot. So the two major things are there which will give more organisms a reason to live. Right? In the polar areas, you don't find sunlight. In the temperate areas, you find sunlight. Right? So that also affects a lot of the ways by which species diversity will be present. Just remember that the tropics would have much more diversity of species if you compare it with the temperate or the polar areas. Now, Colombia, located near the equator, has nearly 1400 species of birds, while New York, at 41 degree north, has only 105 species of birds. Imagine New York, like moving from the equator towards the New York area, that there is a significant decrease in the species of the birds. Greenland at 71° north only has 56 species. So there is a significant decrease. Now, India, with much of its land area in the tropical latitudes, has more than 1,200 species of birds because we lie in the tropical area, the equatorial area. Now, a forest in a tropical region like Ecuador has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in the temperate region like the Midwest of the USA. The largely tropical Amazonian rainforest in the South America has the greatest biodiversity on Earth. It is a home to more than 40,000 species of plants, 3,000 of fishes, 1,300 of birds, 427 of mammals, 427 of amphibians, 378 of reptiles, and of more than 125,000 invertebrates. Amazonian rainforest. Is the Amazonian rainforest called as the lungs of the earth? No clue?
Yes.
Is the Amazonian rainforest called as or referred to as the lungs of the earth?
Yes, ma'am.
Even I think so.
Forest.
So these, it is like out of all of the different kinds of forest or the land covers that there are, the Amazonian rainforest has the most diversity. And where is it located? So it is located in the South America. Remember this. Now, scientists estimate that in these rainforests, there might be at least 2 million insect species waiting to be discovered and named. Ecologists and evolutionary biologists have proposed various hypotheses. Some important ones are, first is speciation. What is speciation, students? You've studied this in evolution. What is speciation? Hmm? No clue?
New and
Hmm?
distinct species that evolve from
Distinct
evolution.
species. My
Uh,
question is, what is speciation? Is it a process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then tell me more. What is speciation?
Identifying the species.
Speciation, if you remember that if in the case of any kind of land, for example, if there is like a continental drift, right, a part of the land got drifted apart. So in that particular land, whatever organisms would be there, they'll form their own new set of species. So speciation refers to the formation of new species. Okay. So this is a function of time. Unlike temperate regions subjected to a frequent glaciations in the past, tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years and thus had a long evolutionary time for species diversification. Now see, in all those areas that have newly drifted apart, they will not have a lot of diversity, isn't it? Because they are left with only one or two or very few like numbers of species. But if you talk about tropical forests, they have not been changing a lot, right? Apart from that, like they are now giving you the reasons that why tropical forests they have more diversity as compared to the temperate ones. Now the tropical environments, unlike temperate ones, they are less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable. This is also one more reason because of which the diversity is a lot. Now such constant environments promote niche specialization. Niche is that area where the organism lives. Okay. And lead to a greater species diversity. And there is more solar energy available in the tropics as compared to the temperate. That is also one more reason. So this paragraph tells you why tropic has more species diversity if you compare it with the temperate one. Okay, so in your books, you people can mark this, that this is important. I'll give you the notes for all of it, don't worry. But for now, you can mark it in your book. Any doubts up until now? Then comes species area relationship. Now, during his pioneering and extensive explorations in the wilderness of South American jungles, the great German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt observed that within a region, species richness increased with increasing explored area, but only up till a limit. Meaning, while he was exploring more and more areas, but he saw that the number of richness in the species it increased as the area increased, but only up till a limit. In fact, the relation between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola. Meaning, if you plot a graph of it, it comes out to be in such a way that tells us that if this one, the blue one, like the area is increasing, so the species richness is also increasing, but only up till a certain point after which it becomes constant. This is a rectangular hyperbola that tells us about the species area richness, or what is the relation between the species richness and the area for which it is found in. So this particular graph, the name again, the third name that you are now encountering is Alexander von Humboldt, and many a times this is also asked in questions like what did he wanted to say by this graph? If he gave this graph, what did he wanted to say? So now he said that the species area richness turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola. On logarithmic scale, the relationship is a straight line. If we take the log of all the values, it comes out to be a straight line, where log S is equal to log C plus Z log A, where S refers to the species richness, A is the area, Z is the slope of the line, and C is the y-intercept. Okay, you just have to remember which alphabet denotes what. They'll never give you questions on that to make numericals and all of that. That type of question will not come. But they will give you the formula and ask you to tell which one is what. So all of these values, like whatever the alphabet denotes, is important. Now, ecologists have discovered that the value of Z, which is the slope, ranges in the 1.2 to 2, sorry, 1.1 to 0.2, regardless of the taxonomic group or the region. Whether it is the plants in the Britain, birds in California, or mollusks in New York, the slope is almost constant for most of the species group. But if you analyze the species area relationship among very large areas like the entire continent, then the value would differ. For example, the frugivorous birds, right? The fruit eating birds and the mammals in the tropical forest is found out, like the slope is found out to be 1.15. So if we are looking at a smaller level, the value will most likely be constant, the value of the slope. And if we are looking at the continental level, then it will vary. Clear? This is the relationship, this particular relationship. These two equations are important to remember. What these words signify, that is important to remember. And who gave this is important. Clear? Any doubts up until now? Okay. Now, importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. Why are we wasting our time remembering and finding the fact about how many numbers are there? Like why do we need to find it, right? What is the importance? Personally, I don't think anything, but let's see. Does the number of species in a community really matter to the functioning of the ecosystem? The answer is yes, it does. For many decades, ecologists believe that communities with more species generally tend to be more stable than with less species. Meaning, if a community, if any particular area has more species, then it will be much more stable as compared to those that have less number of species. The reason is that every single species is dependent or codependent on each other. Now, what exactly is stability for a biological point of view? A stable community should not show too much variation in productivity from year to year, meaning it should be constant, right? It must be either resistant or resilient to any kind of changes, right? It shouldn't show any changes even if man-made interferences is there. So that counts to be a stable species. Also, it must be resistant to invasions by alien species. Now, see students, if for example, there is a piece of land, there are certain kinds of species present. Okay. Now you introduce a third kind of species in that land. Now you can have two outcomes. Either the new introduced species mingle well and your land is good, or the new introduced species will become a threat to the old species and everything is destroyed. Two outcomes can be there. We don't know how these attributes are linked to the species richness in a they don't know anything, then why are they teaching this chapter? But David Tillman, again the fourth name, David, all the names are important. David Tillman's long-term ecosystem experiment using outdoor plots provides some tentative answers. Even now the answers are not confirmed, it's tentative. Tillman found that plots with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. Now, students, you have studied ecosystem, right? I taught you ecosystem just before this. Remember productivity, primary productivity, gross primary, net primary productivity? That also you don't remember. SQ. You don't remember? The amount of biomass produced per year, this much kilocalorie per year. Remember? Ringing a bell? This is what you're going to expect. Will I come in your board's exam and be like ringing a bell? So basically, depending upon that, he said that a particular plot, he took two plots. In one plot, he put a lot of species. In another, he put less species. The plot with more species had less variation, meaning less change in the productivity. And here it had more change. Less change is good, more change is bad. Okay. We don't want more changes in the productivity or in the particular land outcome. He also showed that in his experiments, increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. If there are more organisms, the productivity will be more. If there are more plants, then also productivity will be more. Okay, although we may not understand, again, they do not understand anything. They don't understand completely on how species richness contributes to the well-being of an ecosystem. Not know. We know enough to now these chapters are not chapters. What do I teach you in this? Can I
These
teach
chapters
you
are
old
so
chapter?
bad.
Can I teach you human health or any old chapter again? Okay, we are doing it just for the sake of completing it. Let me see.
How
One
much is this chapter coming? How much till where we have to study? Like the whole till where do you have to study? Like the whole chapter, or is some of it deleted or something?
No, nothing is deleted in this chapter. Nothing, not
Full
even
chapter.
one line. Okay, we are going to come to the better part. We're going to come. It's okay. There are certain significant parts. Okay. There's this bunch of something not necessary for your exam. I'll tell you this part now. See, then came sixth name, Paul Ehrlich. Now see, this person gave a very, very weird hypothesis. Okay, it has been quite some while that I have, studied myself, now teaching you. Still, I don't understand what he wanted to say, but let us do it once more together. See, he studied from Stanford. So let's just say, let's trust his word that he did a lot to get into that university. So he was an ecologist from Stanford, and his name was Paul Ehrlich or whatever you want to call it, just remember the spelling correctly. Okay, so like to remember the spelling, you can say Ehrlich or Ehrlich, whatever you want to say. Now, he used Rivet-Popper hypothesis. He gave a hypothesis or analogy as to, he compared it, right? What is that? Metaphorically. Hmm? So he said in an airplane, he considered an airplane. Okay. He took that airplane as ecosystem. Now, all of you have been in an airplane. Okay. All of you know what an airplane looks like from the inside, outside, and everything. Now, first of all, let me search one. This one. Okay. All right. So we are taking airplane, which is the ecosystem, right? Now, there are so many parts in an airplane, right? We have the wings, the windows, the roof, the floor, whatever, right? So all of those parts, they have been mechanically fixed together with the help of thousands of rivets. Rivets, I was searching the meaning of rivets because I did not know. Rivet means screws, right? Every part is fixed with a screw. We take that screw as the species in the ecosystem, that is our airplane, right? Now, if every passenger traveling in it starts popping a rivet to take home, right? Now you you go to the airplane, you see screws, you start taking them out. Okay, Yaya took out one screw, Mariam took out another screw, Khadija took out another screw, even I took 5 screws. Let this plane be do. So basically, here what he wanted to say is that with every screw that you take out, you are you are making one kind of species extinct. I don't want to laugh. Okay, so basically, if every passenger traveling in it starts popping a rivet, meaning a screw, to take home, meaning this is compared to causing a species to become extinct, it may not affect flight safety at once, right? But like if Yaya took one screw, none of us are going to be harmed, right? But if all of us are going to take one screw each, slowly we're going to see that okay, one part of the wing flew off, right? Then maybe the seat is coming out and all of that thing is happening, right? So as more and more rivets are removed, the plane becomes dangerously weak, right? Same way, same thing happens when a lot of species are removed, the ecosystem becomes very weak. Furthermore, which rivet is removed may also be critical. Loss of rivets on the wings, meaning the main species, if we remove that main, like if you remove the screws from the wings, right? Meaning now the plane can't fly. So basically, the species that you can say are compared to the wings, they are the most important species, right? The major species like mammals and all. So if you remove that, then it becomes very dangerous and the plane can't fly. So you people have understood the analogy that he gave. Hmm? Can you make it nice?
Couldn't he think of a better example?
No, he wanted you to take out screws. So apparently you all people took out the screws and now I can't fly in
How
the air.
big is this plane, ma'am? How big is this plane? Just
The
wondering about
normal
that.
size of the plane that there is. I don't know the size of the plane, but normally whatever size is the plane, that plane is your ecosystem. Now the next time you people are going to travel in plane, you're going to remember this.
I'm gonna go research
Please
this.
don't take out screws. This much is clear. Can you make this in your own words? Just remember rivet, popper. Here popper means that you're taking it out, right? Rivet refers to the screws. And this whole entire stupid thing is given by Paul Ehrlich. So you should remember his name. And they can ask you like, what did he wanted to say basically, right? So now you can decode it. You also don't need to write rubbish. Okay, please don't write rubbish. Right? Meaningful thing. If he has given you rubbish, it doesn't mean that you have to write rubbish. Just write it in a very respectful way. This much is clear, students. I don't think any of you have any trouble. Loss of biodiversity. Let us see why like the organisms are being extinct. Now, people might have heard that using a lot of mobile phones can make the honeybees go extinct or die. Have you heard that? Yeah, the radiations kill them. Apart from that, you know that
How that?
throwing. Hmm?
How?
Because like it's something with the way they communicate with each other. Like you know that there is a queen bee and all of the other bee has to follow that queen bee, right? Because of the radiation, because so many towers are set up for that, like we can communicate, like the sim cards and everything, they are working on the towers, right? So because of the radiations produced by that, it harms the particular queen bee itself. So if the queen bee dies, the whole entire pack or whatever, the swarm, actually
Quality.
swarm of bees die. So, and you know that throwing plastic waste in the oceans might kill the aquatic animals, right? All of you know these things. I hope none of you do that. Now, loss of biodiversity. While it is doubtful if any new species are being added, there are many being lost. The biological wealth of our planet has been declining rapidly, and accusing finger is pointing towards human activity. The colonization of the tropical Pacific island. Colonization, you understand? Like in the tropical island, initially there were no human interference there. So livelihood of the all these species were perfect. Now slowly, since the population of human itself are increasing, so they need land. So they are now interfering with the Pacific islands or the tropical islands, and colonization basically means formation of colonies of humans over there. They are building their homes. Then if they live there, they need malls and all of that. So because of that, the whole entire big interference is there. So because of this interference or colonization, this has led to the extinction of more than 2,000 species of the native birds of the tropical Pacific island. The IUCN Red List. You people now know that IUCN full form is important. International Union of International Union of Conservation of Natural Resources and something, right? So this particular union has given a red list in the year 2004 that tells us about what number of species have extinct. So they said that 784 species, including 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates, and 87 plants in the last 5 years, 500 years have got extinct. Some examples of recent extinctions: the dodo in Mauritius, the quagga in Africa, the thylacine in Australia, Stelis sea cow in Russia, and 3 species, Bali, Javan, and Caspian, of tiger. These are some of the most important animals that are, you can say, documented, and these are the most recent extinctions. The last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Careful analysis of records show that extinctions across taxa are not random. Some groups like amphibians appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. It's not random. It doesn't mean that, okay, any one organism will go extinct. Amphibians particularly are more vulnerable to extinction. Adding to the grim scenario of extinction is the fact that more than 15,500 species worldwide are facing the threat of extinction, meaning they have not yet been extinct, but they are on the verge of extinction. Presently, 12% of all bird species, 23% of all mammal species, 32% of all amphibians, and 31% of all gymnosperm species are at the face of threat of extinction. They are not yet extinct, but they might. From a study of the life history of Earth through fossil records, we learn that large-scale loss of species have occurred earlier also. During the long period, that is almost 300 billion years before, since the origin and diversification of the Earth, there were 5 episodes of mass extinction of species. Just like how dinosaurs got extinct, right? They just got extinct. Then all those animals like mammoths, right, that were there in the ice age, they got extinct. So that was mass extinction. The whole entire population was wiped off. So almost 5 episodes of that mass extinctions have been there. Now they are maybe saying that this may be the sixth extinction that is currently happening. Like it is in the progress or it is presently happening. Now the difference is in the rates. The current rates are estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times faster than what it has already been before. Ecologists warn that if the present trends continue, nearly half of all the species on the earth might be wiped out within the next 100 years, because the rate is very alarmingly fast. It's not slowly, they're getting extinct. Now, in general, loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to a decline in the plant production. First, lowered resistance to environmental perturbations, meaning any kind of disturbances that come in the environment, the organism will not be resistant to it, like drought, right? For example, there is a scarcity of water, the plants will quickly die. They'll not even survive for a little while. Increased variability in certain ecosystem process, such as plant productivity, water use, and pest and disease cycles. Okay, so now coming on to the part of this chapter that actually carries weightage, that actually carries the part from where questions can be asked, like long answer questions can be asked. Just give me 1 minute. Let me just rest my throat. All right. Talking about the causes of biodiversity loss, like what might be the reason, like we have up until now seen, okay, these many have been lost, these many have been extinct and all of that, but why is it happening? Now let us see what are the causes for it. The accelerated rates of species extinctions that the world is facing now are largely due to human activities. There are four major causes which we call as the evil quartet, right? The four major causes: habitat loss and fragmentation. This is the most important cause driving animals and plants to extinction. The most dramatic example of habitat loss comes from the tropical rainforest. Now, the tropical rainforest at one point of time, it covered 14% of the Earth's land surface. These rainforests now cover no more than 6%. They are being destroyed fast. By the time you finish reading this chapter, 1,000 more hectares of rainforest would have been lost. The Amazon rainforest, it is so huge that it is called as the lungs of the planet. Yes. Harboring probably millions of species, is being cut and cleared. Basically, you know now that the tracts of lands or the tracts of forest, they are cut, they are cleared so that cultivation can be done, right? Farming can be done on that. Something can be grown, or maybe the woods can be used to make furniture because of it. This is habitat loss. If you're cutting one tree, imagine how many insects and how many birds live on that tree. So you are depriving them of all the, depriving them of their shelter. Besides total loss, the degradation of many habitats by pollution also threatens the survival of many species, right? Because they live there. Now, when large habitats are broken into small fragments due to various human activities, mammals and birds requiring large territories and certain animals with migratory habits are badly affected, leading to population declines. Because maybe let's just imagine that there is a bird that when it migrates, it comes to a certain tree. Now you cut that tree. Where will it go? Right? So this is habitat loss and fragmentation. Fragmentation, by the word only, you people understand that it is breaking down the particular habitat into smaller pieces, right? So like, for example, there are monkeys, right? They require bigger areas. They require to jump from trees to trees and all of that. But if you remove all of that, how will they live? The first and the most important reason for the extinction of plants and animals is habitat loss and fragmentation. Then comes overexploitation. Humans have always dependent on nature for food and shelter, but when need turns to greed, it leads to overexploitation. Like we need to use the natural resources mindfully. Many species extinctions in the last 500 years, such as the Steller sea cow, passenger pigeon, were due to overexploitation by humans. Overexploitation means you are using the natural resources much more than it is supposed to be used. Like how we are using trees much more than it is supposed to be used. And like this is like a serious thing also, students. Like one, like if you ever get any kind of pages or anything printed out, right? Try to get it printed out on both sides. Don't leave one side vacant. And even if you have left that one side, use it to write your notes or something of that sort, right? Because it is very precious. And we only can save the world. No one else can. Presently, many marine fishes population around the world are over harvested. Like if you take out all the fishes from the sea, then again you will also have not anything to eat further, and the species will only extinct. Clear? So second is over exploitation. Then comes alien species invasion. For example, if let's just say unintentionally or intentionally, if any different species come to that area, so two things can happen: either that area will flourish or that area will be destroyed, right? The example is the Nile perch, introduced into the Lake Victoria in the East Africa, led eventually to the extinction of an ecologically unique assemblage of more than 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. Because of this particular fish or whatever it is, that fish got extinct. 200 species of it got extinct. Now, if you remember the invasive weed species like carrot grass called as Parthenium, lantana and water hyacinth called as Econia. So they divide a lot. Like when water hyacinth was introduced in the water body, it was introduced for its beauty. But this particular plant divides at such a high rate that it filled the whole entire surface of water. So whatever species lived under the water, they did not got oxygen and they died. So this is now coming to the part that excites me. Where have you heard this carrot grass? Heard it before? Ringing a bell?
First chapter.
What is the significance?
It
It
was
is
brought to India.
Eh?
It was brought to India, I think.
Yeah, it was brought to India along with
allergy.
along with wheat, it causes allergy.
pollen allergy. Very good. Both of you are correct. Thank God. Okay. Okay, you make me happy. Okay, the recent illegal introduction of the African catfish, that is Clarias garipinus, for aquaculture purposes is posing a threat to indigenous catfishes in our rivers. So basically, alien species. Alien doesn't mean from a different planet. Here, alien means that it is a species that doesn't necessarily live in that area initially, but now it has been introduced in that area. The fourth reason is co-extinction. The one that I was talking to you about, that whenever one species become extinct, all the other species that are associated with it, dependent, dependent directly or indirectly, they will also get co-means together, right? So two species being extinct together because they are either dependent directly or indirectly on each other. When a host fish species become extinct, its unique assemblage of parasites will also get extinct, because where will it feed now? Another example is the case of co-evolved plant pollinator mutualism. For example, there is a certain type of bee that pollinates a certain type of plant. Now, if the bee is extinct, now the plant will also go extinct, because there will be no insect to pollinate it. And vice versa. If the plant is getting extinct, the bees will also get extinct. Clear? So that is co-extinction. So all in all, we have four reasons because of which the biodiversity could go extinct. The first one is habitat loss and fragmentation. The second one is overexploit. Very good. Overexploitation. Then we have alien species invasion, and lastly, coexistence. Any doubts? Biodiversity conservation. Why?
Can we do it tomorrow?
We still have 10 minutes to go. Why should we? you people have to listen to it. I am speaking for the past 1.5 hours. So you only tell me, why should we conserve, students? Tell me. Without reading. Why should we conserve? Do one thing. You people read now. I'll listen. Okay. The narrow utilitarian reasons. Yeah, you read it. Till narrow utilitarian reasons. Read.
So from narrow.
Yeah, from here there are many reasons till benefit. Read till.
That's true. Okay.
Hmm.
There are many reasons, some obvious and others not so obvious, but all equally important. They can be grouped into three categories: narrowly what's the word?
Utilitarian.
Utilitarian,
Hmm.
broadly utilitarian, and ethical.
Yeah, so all in all, we have three reasons because of which we should conserve the biodiversity: narrow reason, broad reason, and ethical reason. Okay, go ahead.
The narrowly utilitarian arguments for conservation biodiversity are obvious. Human derive countless direct economic benefits from nature, from natural foods such as cereals, pulses, fruits, firewood, fiber, construction material, industrial products such as tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins, perfumes, and products of medical importance. More than 25% of the drugs currently sold in the market worldwide are derived from plants, and 25,000 species of plants contribute to the traditional medicines used by native people around the world. Nobody knows how many more medicinally useful plants there are in the trophic rainforest waiting to be explored. With increasing resources put into bioprospecting, exploring molecular genetic and species level diversity for products of economic importance, nations endowed with a rich biodiversity can expect to reap enormous benefits.
Yes. So what do we see here? The narrow reason because of which we should conserve biodiversity is that we have so many economical benefits that we get from the you can say the biodiversity, right? We get so many products that we sell in the market, right? We have fruits, vegetables which we live on, right? We have fibers, then we have so many construction. Every single thing is derived from the biodiversity, particularly plants, right? Medicine, like there are so many plants that are medicinal. If they are not present, how will we get the medicine? So because of that, narrow reason is like narrowly utilitarian reason refers to all the economic benefits we get. So maybe this is one reason we should conserve it. Now the broad, Mariam, broad reason.
The broadly utilitarian argument says that biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services that nature provides. The fast dwindling Amazon forest is estimated to produce through photosynthesis 20% of the total oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. Can we put an economic value on this service by nature? You can get some idea by finding out how much your neighborhood hospital spends on a cylinder of oxygen. Pollination, without which plants cannot give us fruits or seeds, is another service ecosystems provide through pollinators layer. Bees, bumblebees, birds, and bats. What will be the cost of accomplishing pollination without help from nature pollinators? There are other intangible benefits that we derive from nature: the aesthetic pleasures of walking through thick woods, watching spring flowers in full bloom, or waking up to bulbul's song in the morning. Can we put a price tag on such things?
Now coming on to the broad regions, what does it tell us? These are the things like maybe, okay, let's just say we can chemically prepare all the other things that we were getting, right? Those economic benefits, maybe we can synthesize it chemically. But if you talk about the ecosystem services, Ecosystem services are those things that no one can do. We talk about pollination. Pollination is done by bees and all of that. We can't do it. Then the oxygen, the most important one, right? Like, yeah, they are right. Oxygen cylinders in the hospitals, they cost a ton, right? You know that. You might have seen that in the corona time also, how precious oxygen is, right? So that oxygen is being produced by the trees. And ultimately, if we lose the trees, we lose the oxygen. So these are the things that only and only the nature or the ecosystem or the biodiversity can offer us, and we can't replace it with no matter whatever money we put in. Right? Lastly, there comes the ethical reason. Ethical is that everyone has a right to live. Right? Ethical means all the moral issues by because of which we should conserve, right? So, like, we don't own the planet, right? Everyone that lives on the planet belongs to this planet. So, we need to realize that every species needs that, and for the future generation also we should save it. So these are the three main reasons. They can ask you what are the reasons or why should we conserve biodiversity. You need to explain it all. You can use your own words to explain it. You can use the bookish language. Now tell me one thing, students, honestly, be very honest, do you need the notes for this chapter? Be very honest. You do?
Ma'am, I cannot read it from the textbook, ma'am.
You do need the notes? Okay, I'm going to state the same things. I'm going to give the same exact figures.
Ma'am, it's not about the figures. It's not about
It's
the
about the language.
statement. No, it's about
Then?
how much there is. Like, for example, I'm reading from the textbook. Like,
So you people don't want to do the mehnat, so I should do the mehnat for you. That's what the case. Okay, anyway, I will provide, don't worry. I thought you'd say, no, ma'am, we don't need the notes, we can do it. Okay, I'll give you the notes.
Ma'am, I tried that once for what evolution. It was very hard to memorize that entire chapter. It took 1 week.
Huh? What are you saying?
I tried that once for evolution. It was very hard to memorize it. I had to take
Okay, it's
1 week.
alright. I'll give you the notes. We are almost near to the end of the chapter. This is the last topic. We'll discuss it tomorrow. And I'll give you, see, I'll not ask you to write the notes in the class. I'll give you the notes. You people write it on your own. Okay. And in tomorrow's class, we'll do organism and population. That is much interesting as compared to this. It's so much better. I'll do that because you people don't have the notes also, so I can repeat that chapter yet again. And then the portion will basically the portion is over today only because I have done that chapter before. So now you people know, buckle up, start revising your chapters because you know I will ask questions. Now you people know now my job is done. Now your job starts. Okay, so do nice job, earn a lot. So basically what I mean to say is that learn all the chapters that have been taught in the class, learn everything, all the notes that I have provided. Also students, tell me one thing, is there any chapter left that you have not received the notes for apart from organism and population? Is there any other chapter?
I think for microbes also you did give, but for microbes you just said to study from the textbook.
I haven't given for microbes
No, ma'am, you haven't.
because if I haven't,
That's the only chapter left because after that we started biotechnology. We gave the notes of biotechnology. Yeah,
because you know, like in the meantime, while you people are studying, I can prepare the notes to send it to you. So, okay, microbes is there, organism and population is there, and then this. Okay, this we will complete tomorrow. I'll give you the notes, hopefully tomorrow. And then we'll start organism and population. I am not going to ask you whether you have a doubt or not. But this part, the last ending part, which tells us the reason for habitat loss, I mean the reason for extinction, why should we conserve, and how should we conserve, that is what we're going to do next. This is very important part of this chapter. Okay. All right, students. So we'll keep it till here only for today's class. Now for tomorrow, will you people be interested in crisp and short viva tomorrow for any chapter that you choose, tiny chapter?
Like, can we choose right now or we have to choose tomorrow?
No, you have to choose right now. Tomorrow you have to be prepared for it.
Okay.
Tell me, microbes chapter only? Would you like to go for it? No?
No.
Sexual reproduction in flowering plants, the first chapter?
Yeah.
Okay. So sexual reproduction in flowering plants, the whole chapter, no parts. Okay, you revise that chapter properly. I'll ask you questions once I'm done. Okay, because to make the class interesting, I have to do it because I can't teach EVS. Okay, so environmental studies is not my forte. So all of you, this is to everyone, whoever is in the class. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants, you have to learn and come tomorrow. I'll complete this chapter, start organism and population, and in the middle, I will ask you little bit questions from that chapter. Okay. So this, like in this way only, we'll slowly do all the chapters.
Ma'am,
Because
go by chapter wise, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, like that. Go that.
okay, I'll go serially. Okay, and you like do know one thing, that after this is done, like after I am done with the syllabus completely, we'll do it again. We know that we are going to revise the chapters yet again, but that revision is not going to be me leading, like reading line by line. It will be me asking